The United Nations, a comprehensive overview. The United Nations, UN, is the world's principal intergovernmental organization created to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among states, promote social progress and human rights, and coordinate international cooperation on economic, social and humanitarian problems. It emerged in the immediate aftermath of World War II as the successor to the League of Nations, with the goal of preventing future global catastrophes through collective diplomacy and shared institutions. Founders and birth: San Francisco, 1945. The UN was created at the United Nations Conference on International Organization held in San Francisco from April 25 to June 26, 1945. Delegates from 50 allied nations, 51 founding members. Once the charter was ratified, reviewed and adopted the UN Charter, which was signed on June 26, 1945 and entered into force on October 24, 1945 after the required ratifications. The founding fathers and mothers included the major wartime powers, the United States, the Soviet Union, China, the United Kingdom and France, along with smaller allied states, but the organization was explicitly designed to be universal and representative. The Charter, purposes and principal organs. The UN Charter, the organization's constitutional document, lays out the main purposes: to maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relations based on equal rights and self-determination, to achieve international cooperation on economic, social, cultural and humanitarian problems, and to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. The Charter also establishes the UN's principal organs: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, the Secretariat, headed by the Secretary-General, and originally the Trusteeship Council, now largely inactive. These organs divide responsibilities for diplomacy, peace and security, development, and international law. A brief history and evolution, high-level timeline. 1945, 1950s, foundation and early institutions, for example, WHO, UNESCO, first peacekeeping and observer activities begin. 1950s, 1970s, decolonization brings many new member states from Asia and Africa, UN agencies expand global social and economic programs. 1980s, 1990s, the end of the Cold War broadens UN activity, a surge in peacekeeping operations in Africa, the Balkans, and elsewhere, new human rights and humanitarian initiatives. 2000s, present, the UN faces complexities of intrastate conflicts, terrorism, climate change, mass migration, and rising geopolitical rivalries. Reform debates intensify around the Security Council and institutional effectiveness. Core tasks and functions: how the UN operates in practice. 1. Peace and security. The Security Council authorizes peacekeeping missions, sanctions, and collective actions. The Secretariat and Department of Peace Operations support field missions. 2. Human rights and humanitarian response. The UN Human Rights System, treaty bodies, the Human Rights Council, OHCHR, monitors rights and reports abuses. Agencies such as UNHCR, WFP and OCHA coordinate refugee aid and emergency responses. 3. Development and economic cooperation. ECOSOC and UN agencies, UNDP, UNESCO, FAO, IMF, World Bank as partners, work on development goals. Since 2015 the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, are the central global development framework. 4. International law and justice. The International Court of Justice settles state disputes and gives advisory opinions. Treaty law is advanced through UN processes. 5. Norm setting and technical cooperation. Through conventions and programs, example, WHO vaccination campaigns, the UN sets international norms and provides technical help. Notable successes, selected examples. Global health achievements. WHO's global smallpox eradication, declared eradicated in 1980, remains one of the UN system's signature successes and a template for coordinated global health action. Peacekeeping victories and conflict resolution. UN peacekeeping helped stabilize and support political transitions in places such as Cambodia, Namibia, and Mozambique. The peacekeeping record includes many missions that reduced violence, monitored ceasefires, or helped organize elections. The UN's peacekeeping and mediation work has tangible success stories across decades. Humanitarian coordination and norm building. The UN system has created durable international instruments, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, numerous treaties, established large humanitarian response capacity, WFP, UNHCR, and coordinated disaster relief and development aid at scale. Failures, shortcomings, and high-profile criticisms. While the UN has important achievements, it has also faced sharp criticisms and clear failures. 1. Security Council paralysis and veto politics. The Security Council structure, 5 permanent members with veto power, can and has blocked decisive action in major crises, limiting the UN's ability to act when major powers disagree. Critics argue the Council is unrepresentative of the modern world and sometimes paralyzes collective action. 2. Peacekeeping failures. Several missions failed to prevent mass atrocities, most notably the inability to protect Bosnian civilians in Srebrenica, 1995, and other instances where mandates, force posture, or political will were insufficient. Human Rights Watch and other observers have documented these tragic shortfalls. 3. Operational scandals and misconduct. The UN has experienced serious scandals, including the Iraq Oil for Food program abuses. A major inquiry led by Paul Volcker uncovered corruption and kickbacks, and documented cases of sexual exploitation and abuse by peacekeepers, which have damaged the organization's credibility and led to reforms and compensation efforts. The UN also admitted responsibility for introducing cholera to Haiti after the 2010 peacekeeping deployment, a scandal that produced legal and moral reckoning for the organization. 4. Bureaucratic inefficiencies and funding constraints. The UN system is large and complex, funded through assessed and voluntary contributions. Funding shortfalls, political conditionality by donors, and bureaucratic inefficiencies sometimes undermine program delivery and timely responses. Debates about reform, transparency, and management persist. Scandals in more detail. Examples. Oil for food, Iraq. Designed to let Iraq sell oil for humanitarian supplies under sanctions, the program, 1996 to 2003, became embroiled in corruption allegations. Independent inquiries found misuse of funds and improper payments to intermediaries and some officials, highlighting weak oversight. The scandal triggered governance reforms and demands for greater accountability. Peacekeeper misconduct and cholera in Haiti. Multiple credible reports have documented sexual exploitation and abuse by UN personnel in various missions. In Haiti, epidemiological and legal reviews concluded that UN peacekeepers likely introduced cholera into the country in 2010. The UN has since apologized and engaged in remediation processes, but criticism continues about delays and adequacy of reparations. Why these failures happen? Structural and political causes. Many failures trace back to political constraints, member states' competing interests. Legal limits of mandates. Peacekeepers cannot substitute for sovereign military action unless authorized and equipped, resource and intelligence gaps, an organizational culture that has sometimes resisted external scrutiny. The presence of the veto in the Security Council means that great power politics can override collective responses. These structural features make reform both politically sensitive and technically challenging. Reform efforts and ongoing debates. For decades there have been proposals to reform the UN, expanding Security Council membership, limiting or changing veto use, improving oversight and accountability, strengthening the human rights system, and modernizing management and funding. Many member states, civil society groups and scholars push different packages of reform, but lasting changes require broad political agreement among influential members. The Secretary-General and the General Assembly periodically convene reviews and high-level panels to propose changes. Assessment, still indispensable but imperfect. The UN remains the most comprehensive forum for global diplomacy, a a provider of collective public goods, peacekeeping, humanitarian relief, global health coordination, norm-making, and a crucial convening platform for nearly every country. Yet its effectiveness depends on member states' political will, operational reform, and the ability to adapt to new threats, climate change, cyber conflict, pandemics. The organization's moral authority and convening power are unique, but translating consensus into timely, enforceable action is a constant struggle. The United Nations is a foundational instrument of modern international order, created to prevent another world war and to manage common problems that no state can solve alone. It has produced historic and life-saving achievements, but also suffered damaging failures and scandals. The central question for the 21st century is whether member states will build the political, financial, and institutional commitment needed to reform the UN so it can meet contemporary and emerging challenges effectively, while preserving the universal values embedded in its charter. We hope you have enjoyed watching the video. Thank you.